putting yourself as a parent. What would you like for your kids? And so sometimes some of the decisions you might make when you don't have children is different to when you do have children. Teaching really is a relational activity. People have that relational building. Kids don't care how many degrees you have, all of that. It's all about relationships.
John Marinucci has had significant school leadership experience in quite a lot of colleges in Australia, and now he is the principal of St. Francis College, which is in the area of Brisbane.
You understand the finer intricacies at different levels, and it gives you a good grounding and a basis for what it's like to understand those different roles and the complexity so that you have a better picture overall. Having routines is a good thing. The kids love routine for starters. The work is never done. You know, there will be work tomorrow and that work will still continue. So just pick some priorities, do the best you can. The rest will still be there for you to tackle tomorrow. You can't accomplish everything in one day.
Tell me a little bit about your journey and your origin story. When was the first time you thought you could be a teacher or you could be in a leadership position?
I started my teaching career in 1980 and I taught, left teaching and came back to teaching. And the reason I did that was because I really love working with kids and the next generation. I left teaching for about 6 years. So predominantly my work has been in education. I did go into the world of business, retail management, and I thoroughly enjoyed that, but I did miss the connection and relationship with kids. Never actually thought I would be in the world of school leadership. However, a number of people said, oh, you'd make a great school leader. And then once I entered in that space, people said, oh, you'd be a great principal. But I have a real commitment to the school communities that I work. So very long-winded approach to being a principal, but I think it's wonderful from the point of view that you become quite grounded in a number of the aspects of different levels of leadership within a school.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how has this journey changed you as a person? How has this transformed you as a person?
Well, the whole leadership experience is just a wonderful ride, and you learn as you go. I'm a firm believer. We have to model for kids, and if we want kids to be lifelong learners, then we've got to do exactly the same thing. So completing a master's in educational leadership just opened my eyes to a whole range of different things. And then as we work through leadership, then you learn so much more yourself as well. But I guess finding, you know, the readings and the gurus in educational leadership, a lot of things from Tim Elmore, Michael Fullan, Andy Hargraves, a whole range of different people shape and mold your thinking. And then you put that into practice as best you can in your own school community.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you mentioned community again. What is community for you?
Well, that's a difficult one. I guess there's many stakeholders in a community. Like, first and foremost, there's obviously the students that we work with. There's our parent community, our staff community, and it's trying to put all of those together to form one big happy family. And I guess if we have happy students, then we have happy families. And if we've got happy students, we've got happy teachers. And that just, that tripod or circular event just keeps going round. So that's the immediate community, but then also trying to work with it and outside agencies and partnerships. That's also part of our community. And I work in what's a system, Brisbane Catholic Education. So there's that community and the community of 147 schools. So we fit into that picture as well. So community for me has many different aspects. We're a Catholic school, so there's also the Catholic parish community as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how is the community held in cohesion and like a good network? What are the ingredients?
I don't know. We're still playing in that space, forever changing. And I guess COVID made a big difference to how community works as well. And what worked beforehand doesn't always work since COVID, because COVID introduced a whole range of complexities and a new way of operating via social media and Teams and Zoom and all of those sorts of things. And so people are still happy to come to the school, and I guess in particular for all of the co-curricular like sport, movie nights, whether it's food, culture, any of those. But I guess when it comes to some of the academic nights that we do, then community, and we have to impart that information in, I guess, ways that are convenient for our parent body.
And have you found that parents benefit from this process?
The process of being in community. They certainly like the community aspect, but we have a very diverse cultural background to the school. We have about 52 different cultural backgrounds, and so therefore everyone comes with a slightly different perspective. And with that, I guess most of the people probably believe that we do a great job and tend to go, you're educators, you know education, we don't, we entrust our kids to you. And so therefore, I guess part of that parent engagement in community, at times we would like to see more, but I guess they do let us know if we're not doing the right thing. And their absence also in a way indicates that we are doing a great job, because we don't get many complaints at all, if any.
Yeah. And this is a way of building trust with the parents, right? Because you cannot build trust from the day, the beginning of the school year. Just they bring their kids and they lay their trust on you. But you have to be consistent with that and build the trust and this system.
It is. It's an ongoing journey, and we're a P to 12 college, so there's 13 years, and it would be lovely to have the kids here for the whole 13-year journey. But that's a long time to live in one place too, and a number of families that either come and go and recommend other families to us. And some of the communities we have, the African communities, our Pacifica group of nations, and they are very solid as part of community. And so word spreads quite quickly within their community, whether you are a place that is welcoming and inclusive or not. And so we are that place. If we weren't, we wouldn't have so many different cultures here. But trying to find how we celebrate all of them can be a bit tricky. And in Australia, we celebrate Harmony Day, which is in March. So we do have Harmony Week and activities to foster that. And next year, we're looking at having parents coming in and celebrating with us. We did have a few, but we're going to open it up even further, and maybe even have some parents joining in on the part of the student performances, which would be wonderful to see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what is that like one practice that you do in your leadership role that you believe stands out and helps you move on and build trust with your team and the students as well? If
The
there is.
student one is difficult, because as you move through leadership, you become more and more removed from students. And we'd like to still think that we're very student-centered and approachable. So trying to get out and talking to students at lunchtime or before school or after school. But sometimes that's tricky with the number of meetings and other things that fills your calendar up quite easily. But I guess for the staff, to build that trust is just to be out and about and communicate, be open and transparent. I don't know if I do anything that is too different to other leaders, but just knowing that you're there with a willing ear, and that what you say is what you do. So it's about that accountability to staff and to the community as well.
So you feel accountable to them as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're in privileged positions, and we're accountable for everything, whether it's the finances, educational results, all of those, because parents do pay school fees, and you do want to know that the money that they're putting into the school is being used wisely, whether it's for educational resources for their children, whether it's sporting resources, or whether it's just any other type of aspects for that. I mean, I'm a parent. My children have all left school, but always very mindful of putting my parent hat on as well as an educator hat.
And when you became a parent yourself, how did this change the way you see school and education?
Yeah, that's a great question, Theodora. I love that, because we all know how to run schools as a teacher or whatever, but life changes when you have kids. And I guess one of the major aspects is putting yourself as a parent. What would you like for your kids? And so sometimes some of the decisions you might make when you don't have children is different to when you do have children. By and large, the two are very much in alignment and consistent, but every now and again, having your child in mind, or perhaps one of your children in mind, and go, how would this impact that particular child? Makes a bit of a difference in your thinking. So it's always important to be student focused, also teacher focused. However, having children at times can I guess, give you a clearer picture of how you'd like to move forward.
I know for me, it changed my teaching completely. It just flipped my teaching style. When my kids came to my school to attend as students, I just changed instantly. And so the feedback from them, I was open enough to see the feedback coming in and
I remember as an early career teacher having a conversation with the parent over the phone, and his daughter was a difficult type student. And when I explored that with him, one of the things he said to me was, "Do you have children?" And at that stage, I didn't. And they go, I hear where you're coming from. Yeah. So it can be quite difficult at times. So it's good because it challenges us into opening our mind as to how we should be looking at things rather than a single lens, a very wide perspective.
Yeah, and I think our kids are the best university we could go through.
It's a great life experience, yeah. And to be surrounded with the next generation constantly is wonderful. And I remember at some of my previous schools, because of the different socioeconomics, one of the things I love doing is going caravanning or camping in Australia. And occasionally I would bump into students from school I was at, and my kids were thoroughly amazed that they would actually talk to me. I said, "What do you mean?" And they go, "Oh, we wouldn't talk to our teachers. They don't talk to us." And I go, "Well, isn't that what school's about? It's part of, not only imparting knowledge, but also giving kids life skills and how to communicate." And I think that's a real credit to, I guess, maybe the way that we sometimes do relationship building with kids, that they want to have that person to talk to, and outside school that makes a difference in their lives. So I think that's one of the things that not every occupation can say, but teaching certainly is impacting not only today, but the future. And we're touching that future every day.
Yeah. Do you think this is up to the professional development you have been through, or is it something from your own nurture and maybe your own upbringing that made you connect with the students, and you're still connecting with the students and reaching them?
Maybe a little bit of both, but I believe it's probably in you, and it's your personal upbringing and things like that. Yes, studies and personal and professional development can impact those aspects, Theodora, but I know that's why I came back to teaching. It was in me. I have a daughter who is a primary school teacher, and she wanted to be a teacher from the time she was in year 3. And not because she's my daughter, but I see what she does, and she's only in her 3rd year. I go, I wish I was anywhere near as good as what she was at that period of time. I was by the end of my teaching, because I don't teach now, but I guess my classroom is a much bigger classroom. It's all the teachers and all the students rather than a single classroom. But I guess you've got to have that passion to work with, whether it's early career or early age students, or more mature. I'm a secondary school teacher, so my background has been working with 12-year-old to about 17, 18-year-olds. But it's regardless of where your passion lies, it's got to be about nurturing the development of children.
Mm-hmm. And what was that part of your childhood that informed the role you took on later, that inspired, that was just like a prayer for what you're doing now?
I'm not sure, Theodora. Being of ethnic or cultural background, my parents are Italian, and when I was born, my dad's parents came to live with us from overseas, and my grandparents were quite, well, what I think old back then, but probably quite young now. They were 59, so learning a new language and coming to a country with the proverbial one suitcase. So they lived with us, and that sort of formed the idea of what it's like: extended family, community, communicating with others, just hearing the stories that my grandparents used to share, just intrigued me and wanted to do much better for future generations, because listening and watching them, what they were doing, just invited me to do something even more.
Mm-hmm. And you can really understand where they are coming, where these students are coming from different backgrounds, lots of diversity in Australia.
Well, not necessarily lots of diversity in Australia. There is a lot of diversity, but there are certain areas that have more diverse or culturally different backgrounds. And for me, I certainly understand and I get this community because of the many different languages that are here and the cultural backgrounds. When I went to school, even though I was born in Australia, because of having the grandparents with me, I went to school as what we would term now as English as an additional language or dialect in Australia. My first language was Italian. So I went to school in Australia barely knowing English, maybe just hello, please, thank you, just the few basics, even though I was born here, because my grandparents, they would speak in Italian. And so that was the first language for me. So I understand some of the learning struggles that our families and students have. And then when I was in my 3rd year of schooling, my dad had long service. After 10 years of working with an organisation, they get long service, so approximately 3 months paid leave. And at that stage, my parents took the 3 of us back home to Italy to meet the grandparents and some of the relation, which was a wonderful experience. And I still remember quite fondly some of the learnings we did there, which wasn't in the classroom. But then coming back, I missed 3 months of learning, and I really struggled with that for a long, long time, missing out on some of the basics that we learned in English. And sentence construction, a whole range of things. And, even though you learn different things on a trip, you don't learn that English language. And so I understand what it's like for our kids to speak multiple languages, perhaps a different language at school to the language they speak at home. When a number of our families go overseas and then don't return back for months later, I understand that learning gap and the learning loss that they may experience. So we try and do the best we can to try and catch them up.
Yeah. And this takes me back to the COVID period where we had to spend time at home. So I imagine these kids listening to their languages, the background of the family, to those languages, but not being able to interact and use the English language at school, just listening to the teacher through the monitor.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a difficult period. But for us here in Queensland, we actually had a very short period, unlike some other parts in Australia or other parts of the world. Like America had a very long downtime. And in Victoria, which Southern Australia, they had I think almost a full year and a half or a year of no direct contact. It was just online learning. Yeah. And teaching really is a relational activity. People have that relational building. Kids don't care how many degrees you have, all of that. It's all about relationships. And yes, you can build relationships online. However, it's not the same. And when we had the online learning, everyone was sort of juggling those relationships and doing check-in with children, phoning up, rather than just the online, making sure their social, emotional well-being, just welfare was all above board. And then it was all over and we go, oh, thank goodness, and the kids flourished back to school because they missed those relationships with other kids and also teachers. But then we settled back into a routine, which was probably far worse in terms of attendance, because it's like, why do I need to come every day? I don't see that my life has been adversely impacted by not attending, because teachers now put things up on the Teams environment and a whole lot of files up. I can catch that up, so it's not as big a drama, but it is, because then they're missing all that socialization that happens. And part of that, then they become more withdrawn the more you're away, and then that turns into school refusal.
Yeah, and we still see the aftermath of this period. Yeah. And yeah, I get feedback from lots of educators, from lots of leaders who are seeing the gap that part of our lives has created, and we see it now.
And we will see it for a long time yet, Theodora. I mean, we do see it in the kids, but that will then continue when they go into the workforce as well. So that'll be a long life story. Yeah.
And how has your later, did you start as a teacher in your career early on?
I did. I studied to be a teacher, and so I went into teaching and taught for a while and then left because I didn't think that I was a very good teacher at all. And I thought maybe I should pursue something else. And one of the other loves that I had was business. So I did that for about 6 years. And as much as it was very nice and enjoyable, I just felt that I wanted to go back into the classroom. And when I came back, I thought, I'm not doing this again. This is it. It's now or never, as Elvis Presley used to say. So, and I thought, I think the time is right. And I was certainly more mature as well, and been here ever since. So I've enjoyed it, enjoyed the ride, and enjoyed the whole leadership and trying to impact not only students, but staff and our leaders that we have here at the college as well, trying to mentor and try and do a little bit of coaching with them as well.
And what is your advice to those leaders and heads of schools who have never been in class? I know there are some of them
Yeah.
who take on leadership roles without having been through the process of, obviously you stopped teaching because you felt something was not okay with you, and you had a very high standard for yourself and for what you could give to your students, but then you revisited that, right? But there are people who've never been through this
Yeah.
process at all.
I know at one stage when I guess the issue of principals and school leaders, there was a decline in Australia, and there was, I remember a survey going around about shared principalship, and maybe it just becomes an administrator rather than someone from a teaching background, etc. And I thought, wow, that's difficult. I remember as a young boy watching the Ronson ad on TV, an American company, shaving company, where the guy that was in the ad said, I started out, I can't remember his exact job, but basically the lowest level, and then he progressed through the ranks, and I loved the company so much that I bought it, and now I'm the managing director. There's a lot of truth and elements in that, and I think like, even though it's taken me a long time to get to be a principal, because it was never in my plan to do that, and I think at times that is always one of the best ways to approach it. There are so many people that go, oh, I've got a career plan, I'm going to do this for X number of years, do this, and then it'll get me here. I mean, that's wonderful, and you may be very good at that. However, I think people who progress through all the different aspects, so for example, in my secondary background, I was teacher, I was a curriculum leader in charge of various subjects, I was a pastoral leader looking after students in a year level or multiple year levels. Then I became an assistant principal, a deputy principal. So doing all of those, you understand the finer intricacies at different levels, and it gives you a good grounding and a basis for what it's like to understand those different roles and the complexities, so that you have a better picture overall.
Yeah, yeah. I always believe in that process that makes you, molds you into becoming a better leader eventually, not just.
Yeah, well, we live in a digital world. However, the process I've described in a way is very analog and linear, but there is a lot of elements to that. Everyone thinks they know how to run a school or know everything about education because, I've had kids and they've been at school, or, I went to school once, but it is a lot more complex than, even for policy people in government. So it is important to have as much information as you can.
And the ability to read students through their eyes, or just picking words they're using and reading between the lines, reading between the words, is something you develop well being a teacher, right?
Yeah. And many years ago, there are a number of people in education who go, what can I do? I'm just a teacher. Well, you're never just a teacher. And regardless of where you teach in a school, whether it's the early years or the upper years, you wear so many different hats, especially in the school day. I guess as a foundational teacher, or early years teacher, then you become almost like a news agent to them, the go-to help for everything, because you're the pseudo parent and you're getting them acclimatized to what school life is like and starting their independence. And as you go through, you then become almost like a counselor for some students with their problems, dealing with so many different aspects in a day. And people don't necessarily understand that. And sometimes teachers sell themselves short as well, because they think, I can only do one thing, yet so many jobs look upon teachers and try and source teachers because of the high functioning abilities that they have in so many different areas. So talking to adults, talking to kids, all the administrivia and paperwork that they do, keeping records. So there's so many aspects of what teachers do that I guess the world of business or any other aspects go, these people are sought after people, but we sell ourselves short at times, and we're our own worst enemies.
Yeah, agree. So tell me a little bit about your daily practice. What is this sequence of things you do? Maybe you're not even conscious of, but these are the things that keep you grounded. These are the things that keep you connected to the community, to your students, to yourself, mainly.
Well, I guess one of my friends of mine always say, hey, John, we're all on the spectrum somewhere. And I go, well, that's true. That's so true. And having routines is a good thing. Kids love routine for starters, so you talk to them about some of the teachers that they hold in high esteem. And I know that sometimes they don't like firm boundaries, but they go, they're the best teachers because we know where all the boundaries are, etc. Mm-hmm. So having those structures for kids, the same thing applies to us. So when I get up in the morning, I like to try and go for a walk every day. That keeps me grounded. While I'm walking, I try and listen to podcasts or just walk and meditate, etc. Like to go with my dog. It's just the two of us. Perfect. It's a great way. And occasionally I walk streets. Sometimes I walk parklands. So just the beauty of nature and so on. So to me, that is a great way to start every day because it puts me in a great frame of mind. And when you exercise, endorphins, all of that. If I don't go in the morning, to go at night just doesn't have the same impact. So it sets my day up. And I guess that to me is a great way every day if I can.
Yeah. And it's for me, the translation is, it's as if when we walk, it's like nature is absorbing everything that is not serving us anymore. And we are just sets us up for the day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is serving us. Yeah. Beautiful. And I think that this is a practice that everybody should take, not only leaders. Everybody should take up this practice. And
well, it's interesting because this morning, one of the leaders here at the school, she started her new routine, and that's exactly what she's doing. She posted on LinkedIn, I've started my new well-being or wellness. I'm getting up at 5 and now walking. And I thought how wonderful. It is a good practice and a good routine because as a school leader, most of your day gets absorbed with others. So others can be students, parents, staff, all of those. So there is very little time in our busy world to have time for yourself. That is quality time. And so just spending that time reflecting what previous days, getting yourself ready for the day ahead, I think is a wonderful experience that everyone should do rather than just get up, have breakfast and off to work.
And sharing it with your colleagues, with your team, with other leaders is also beautiful because they see you doing something different. Maybe they haven't done this before, but knowing that you do it and it works for you and seeing how calm and relaxed you are.
Well, Theodore, I'd like to think I'm calm and relaxed. Maybe my own children mightn't say that, but I think it certainly sets up my day. And for the number of hours that I do spend at work, that is your family. Spend more time here at work than I do at home. And that's just the travel and the number of hours you do on a day. It doesn't mean you want to neglect family because that's an important part of your own well-being. And with some of the practices, very, very slow at this, but trying not to access emails after a certain time, the right to disconnect. So not responding to emails, trying to set that pattern for staff as well is important, because otherwise we have 24/7 availability and accessibility. And if we start doing that, then parents will go, well, it's okay to send an email at 11 o'clock at night and I'll get a response by midnight. And that's not good, healthy environments to be working in as well. So trying to model some of those things. No, I'm not a good model at coming to work like I come early and leave late, but that is the time that I do get work done, because the rest of the day you're spending trying to meet the needs of others.
Yeah, we're all work in progress, so.
Absolutely. I'm a major work in progress.
All of us. And the moment we realize that we're not done is the moment we grow, right? The moment we realize that this is not enough is the moment we grow as well.
Yeah. And I know occasionally I say to some of the leaders here, they go, oh, you know, are you still here at work? They go, yes, so are you. And I go, yes, but, you know, I'm at a different stage of my life to you are. You know, they might have young kids, whereas my kids, they're all well into their 20s and working, etc. And I guess to me, the work is never done. You know, there will be work tomorrow and that work will still continue. So just pick some priorities, do the best you can. The rest will still be there for you to tackle tomorrow. You can't accomplish everything in one day. And just like the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, our job is never done in one day. You know, whether we're dealing with student issues or our own work, you just have to do the best you can with the time constraints you've got.
Can you share a moment you coached a teacher in your team, and it was could be a learning opportunity for all of us?
Wow. I guess one of the aspects around coaching a teacher was around low performing and working with that teacher. I guess I'm thinking of one particular teacher where she came to me and said, oh, I'm really struggling with these students that I've got in my class. And I said, well, tell me more. And as we went through the process, like all these things were important to her about homework and behavior in class and everything else. But she wasn't prepared to do anything. It was your problem. What can I, you know, how can you help me? But it wasn't, how can you help me? How can you do it for me? This was really the bottom line. And so getting that person to see, well, you know, do you know where the students sit in the playground? No. Do you follow up with parents? And no. No, so all of those things, so slowly working with that teacher to see the benefits of doing these things, because if you don't follow up or you don't place importance in that, then kids pick that up as well. And so that's why they weren't doing homework. That's why they weren't behaving. And so by turning that around slowly, we then saw benefits of that. And she turned her whole performance around. It wasn't about putting her on a performance management, but it was about, well, you've come to me with this problem. How do we turn this around together? Rather than to go, well, you're passing it to me. Well, I can easily solve the problem because I'm not the one having those problems and I never did. But it's about how working with you to see the benefits of changing those habits to make it more user-friendly for you so that you won't have those issues down the track. And that takes time, you know, because you only work on one small thing at a time, and then you start to get the momentum and that snowball effect, and then it starts to come all together. And then it's like the light bulb moment, the aha, I see what you mean.
Yeah. It's nice. It's beautiful that you took her on a step-by-step journey, and you just opened a new dimension to her that she wasn't seeing. Like, the students are out there playing in the playground, so this is where you should maybe so you gave her a detour to get where she wanted.
Well, that's true. And I guess the same thing applies to students in the class that you have difficulties with. Everyone has something to unwrap, and those students may not be great students in the classroom, yet they're great sports people. Go out into their field, show them that you're interested. What do they do on the weekend? That's part of that relationship building. And once kids know that you care about them, things change. And that's why it's so important to coach school teams or anything like that, because kids see you in a different light, and vice versa, you see them in a different light. And all of a sudden, what was potentially a problem child is no longer a problem child because you have taken time to be interested in them.
Yeah.
That's what teaching's about.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful way to end this podcast. I'm so happy for this conversation we had, John. And now for this,
Thank you, Theodore.
we have this trick I play with my guests every time. So I would like you to choose one of the books. If you cannot read the titles, you can just pick the number.
I can read them all. I'll even make it. Oh, there's the one in the middle, the black one. I can't see that title.
Okay.
In between. No, that's not the one I want. But just to
Okay.
know what
Just
that title is.
it's Think and
Between
Grow.
Untamed and the 7 Habits of.
Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll make it easy. I'll take the top one, Hidden Potential by Adam Grant, because that's not one I've read.
I'm working on right now, so I'm happy to do this work with you with this book. Now tell me a page and I'll explain the process.
Page 59.
59. All right, and a line.
19.
Okay, so I'm going to read this line and the context around it, and we will just discuss how this resonates. Let me find line 19. Okay, it's something I have underlined as well.
I don't have ESP, but that's good.
So, sea sponges don't just expunge toxins. They also produce biochemicals that protect and promote life with anti-cancer, antibacterial, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory properties. It's describing the process of us being like sponges in our life.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of a context it gives you for what you're doing. Do you want me to read it again?
No, it was actually interesting. As you've started reading it, I automatically thought of that. How wonderful a description that is. Yes, because it's so easy for us to absorb so much, but what we also give out is important. And for students to see our outward signs. One of the things you mentioned earlier in the podcast was about being calm and all of that. And I guess in my life, there is so much, I guess, pressures and stress as a principal, either from the system, from a whole range of things. But if we go out and we go, oh, woe is me, or this is terrible, people sense that. Who wants to become a leader or a principal? Who wants to be around you? So very important to give that experience. It doesn't mean that you're not, I guess, like the duck underwater, paddling very hard, but giving out to the universe and to the people you meet that calmness about things. Because certainly in our context here, we have a lot of students, because of where they come from, trauma background, and they need that calmness, because in their own personal life at home, there isn't always calmness, and they come to school displaying elements of traumatic world. So we do need to be quite calm at what we do and to give that calm impression. So I think that sort of sits quite nicely in that space.
Beautiful.